Did you know that just like a radio tower, you're actually broadcasting your frequency resonance all around you? And the response to your broadcast is why your life is the way it is. How high your frequency resonance is dictates what experiences you get to have, how much abundance you experience, and what your life feels like to you. In this episode, we're going to dive deep into why exactly having a higher frequency resonance matters, how much it affects, and how to raise it so you can actually create and experience a better reality. And after the discussion, we get to the most important part. The group frequency calibration associated with this episode is where the frequency work happens and where change actually occurs. So be sure to listen to that. Without releasing distortion patterns targeted by the GFC, the change you want will be more difficult to attain because you haven't addressed the root of the issue. If you would like this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you'd help us by hitting the like button so our content can start to find its way to more people like you. And if you think that this video could help someone you know, please share it with them. My name is Karen Cheong, and in this episode of Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, we're discussing calling in the life you want.
You say an awful lot, right? That it all comes down to your frequency resonance.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people might say, is it always just going to be this, right? But I was wondering if you could break down what that actually means. And I know that's like
why we care.
Why do we care?
Yeah.
I'm just going to clear my distortions and my frequency resonance is going to go up. Yay!
Yeah.
And all these things are going to happen. Is it though?
Yeah. So I love this question and I love this topic because it's the question, why do we care about having a high frequency resonance is something that many people want to know.
Yeah.
So,
why bother?
Yeah. Why bother? It's because the frequency resonance that you are dictates what your life will look like and how you feel.
Okay. Now, you said that a lot. So what your life looks like and how you feel. So are you saying that frequency is directly related to what happens in your life?
Yeah. So what you get to experience. So meaning that so I'll put it in a framework that people have heard of before. So there was a book that came out in the 2000s called The Secret, or a film also that they made. And it popularized the idea that we can create our reality, that we can manifest with our thoughts. Yeah. So our thoughts are what create our reality.
Yes.
So that was I'm sure that idea, actually I know that idea had been around for a long time because that's the work from Napoleon Hill and all that sort of thing, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, etc. But that film and that book really made it more popular, or at least it catalyzed a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's actually an idea that isn't one that necessarily works because thought is not high enough in its frequency resonance to create change in the physical reality.
Okay, stop there.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's quite important, the difference.
Yeah, it's a huge
right?
difference. Yeah.
For two reasons. There's people running around thinking, if I'm thinking like this, I'm going to create all these horrible things.
Yes, they worry.
So they're in fear.
Which only drops your frequency resonance.
Right.
And when fear drops your frequency resonance, you can't create very much. You actually just create more fear, more worry.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is people are trying to kind of gaslight themselves. I can't think that horrible thought I'm having. So I must think this positive thinking.
Yes.
So then you've got this disharmony or...
Yes. That's what I call polarity. So here you are with a frequency resonance that is resonating, let's say, for example, with worry about money or scarcity patterns or not enoughness. And you're trying to say to yourself, I am abundance, I am in wealth, I am a whatever. So what you do is you actually create dissonance in your field where you actually are amplifying your scarcity because guess what? You know that you're not in abundance.
Yeah.
You pretty much are very aware of it. So when you say that, it's totally opposite to the frequency resonance that you actually embody.
And I would almost say you're confirming your lack of.
Yes, that's right.
Because you're asking for, or trying to change, or trying to override this knowing that you're in scarcity.
Yes, and what it does, it actually amplifies, like I said, as you're saying as well, it amplifies that scarcity because you know that you're saying it because it's not true, because you want something else.
Yeah.
So you're actually amplifying the distortion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, right. So let's just differentiate that then for the people listening.
Yeah.
What you're actually talking about is a whole other ball game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we're talking about frequency resonance.
Yes.
So explain that difference, because I think having the two as a contrast will help us understand deeper what's coming.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we just explained the thought, right, and how it creates polarity within your system, and it actually only amplifies what it is that you're trying to run away from, that you're trying to, have a different experience from.
Yeah.
So frequency resonance is much higher in vibration than your thought. And what the point of frequency work is to release the distortion. So meaning the thing that you're trying to get away from, the scarcity, the worry, the fear, that like all-consuming, like I feel like I'm going to die if I don't get this thing, or I don't have enough, or whatever it is, it releases that distortion because it's the thought. You have to remember this, and it's really difficult for people to understand. Your thoughts and your emotions are simply a reflection of the distortion.
Yes.
The distortion is the root. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts and your feelings are just like the like leaves, the flower. You know what I mean? It's like just like it's like the symptom, right? It's not actually the thing that causes the, you know what I mean? The thought and the emotion.
So if I was to use another parallel, it's like you break out in a rash.
Yeah.
The rash isn't the problem, though it is.
Yes. Yeah, because it's itchy.
But what caused the rash? That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, right. So it may be inflammation. It may be an allergy. It may be you're having a response to, I don't know, poison ivy or whatever it is, right, that you're saying could be causing the rash. And so the thing is, the root of the problem isn't like the topical rash. It's the thing that caused it. And it's the same thing with our thoughts and our emotions. So when you actually release your distortion patterns, the underlying root is not there. So that when you then want to experience something else, you're from more of a neutral space, because you're not desperately trying to get away from that terrible feeling of like, oh my God, I don't have enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also love to add in there, just through my experience with the work, is that once you've gotten rid of some of these distortions, actually what you thought was the root is not actually the root.
Yes.
Actually,
yes,
it becomes clearer
yes.
what the root is. And that's when you can really start to dig deep into, okay, let's just move on from this.
Yes.
Right?
And it's funny how our memory works, because, you know, when we are in a position where we feel like we're being victimized and bullied by all of these thoughts and emotions of whatever the fear is, let's just continue with the scarcity thing, it really can feel like I want to blame somebody, or I want to blame life, or I want to blame a situation, and that's the reason that happened, or it's because of my mother, or because of my father, or because of my sister, or because someone said this to me. And then you realize, actually, none of that is what caused it. What actually caused it was the distortion pattern that was running, and your memory of it is completely shaped by the distortion, and it probably didn't happen the way you remember it.
Yes, and I would love to add to that as well, keeping with that example. Okay, it's this toxic relationship I'm having with this person that's my problem. I need to move away from that relationship. Actually, the distortion part is still there.
It's still running with you.
It's still running. You're just going to meet another person that meets that frequency and creates that same environment so that you can start to look inwards and figure out, why am I keeping attracting the toxic person? Because that's the root, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Because the thing is, you have to remember that you are a vibration.
Yeah.
So you are vibrating at a certain rate with all these different patterns, right? All this different distortion. So it's like what you're broadcasting out to the universe. So of course, the reality that comes around is like a magnet. It's like, hello.
Yeah.
I'm going to match, like, this is what you're calling for. Hello. I'm right here. I'm going to give you exactly what you're calling for, even though you don't even know that you're calling for it. And you're like, dang it, I don't want that, right? So that's the thing. The frequency that you are is, it's like your signal into the universe, right? Of what you are. And so your reality will just be like, okay, I'm just going to mirror that.
I'm going to mirror your frequency. Not for punishment.
No,
right? You came into this incarnation, into this physical body, in this special time that we're in, to grow.
Yes.
Right? And you've chosen this. So this is being displayed as a mirror in front of you so that you can actually say, whoa, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Let's change this.
Yeah, exactly. And there are many of us who have for lifetimes, and if you're listening to this, you might be one of them, where you're like, in this lifetime, I awaken.
Yeah.
I release these distortions that I've incarnated in for like millennia or hundreds of years, depending on who you are. And you're just like, I'm done now. Like, it's time to remember who I am. Because a lot of people say to me, what is awakening? Like, why do we care?
Yeah.
The reason, what is awakening? So first of all, just for everyone to know, it's not a point. It's not like one day you're asleep and the next day you're like, ding, awake. It's more, it's a spectrum, right? And it's infinite. You know, I think people get disheartened by it, but I think that's awesome because you just think about all that potential.
Yeah.
But it's really, it comes to a point where you, so what is awakening? Just shorthand. Let me just get to the bottom line. It's when you recognize that you are not just the physical embodiment, that you are infinite, indestructible consciousness, that you are infinite. Now, I think for most people, that is a very difficult thing to understand because they're like, well, my life sure as hell doesn't feel infinite. Yeah. It feels stuck. It feels like I'm in the same place all the time. It feels like I can't move forward. And I keep experiencing these same problems, or somebody near me suffering, I'm suffering. There's no infinite here. But that's the point. That's the illusion of the ego mind and the human experience, and that's why you have these distortions, because to overcome all of that illusion is a tremendous act of power. And to release these distortions in this lifetime is a miracle, because then you start to recognize, wait a minute. Yes, there's this like thing that I have that's called the mind, but it doesn't need to be the only perspective that I have. And it's not the thing that is me. I'm something much greater than that. And I think that is when people, will talk around it, but really that's the crux of awakening.
Yeah. I would love to add into that too, that whole indestructible consciousness, that the gift in that is that when the awakening process begins, shall we say, because who knows where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right. And there's an understanding that I am the co-creator, creator of my existence.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been given the gift of the body, but how I want to interact and experience and live in this reality is completely up to me.
Yes.
And that might be scary for some people too.
Absolutely.
But it's a huge gift.
Oh, totally. And the thing is, this is the thing that really rubs people the wrong way, is that you are choosing your experience. Now people are like, look, I didn't choose to have my kid die. You have to remember, it's not just from your ego mind, like your life perspective now as a human. This is your choice at like a much grander level as infinite, indestructible consciousness. Infinite. I mean, it's very hard for us to understand that.
Yeah.
But you chose to have an experience. Yes, from a human perspective, it can look like suffering. I'm not belittling the suffering of the experience because it's
a real
horrible.
Experience.
Yes, absolutely. And there is a part of you that is having the experience so you can experience it and then transcend it and to grow from it and to to even have the experience in the embodiment, the intensity of it is actually a gift. Now, I know people are like, suffering sucks, so I'm not sure why that's a gift. It is because it will kick your ass into awakening.
Yeah.
And when you're infinite, indestructible consciousness, we don't suffer in the same way. I'm not saying suffering is good, okay? So please no, I'm not trying to say you must suffer, flagellate yourselves, you're not worthy. Yeah. I'm not saying that.
Not in the religious sense.
No, not in the religious sense. I'm saying that as a human, because we don't like suffering, it will catalyze us into a lot of things.
Yeah, because we want to change it then.
Yes.
At that moment, we want it to change.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're too comfortable,
why change? The intensity of that discomfort is what propels that desire to change. And in that is where you get that amazing thing that can happen if you can hold your center, if you can have enough awareness, if you find the tools to help you to rise in your own vibration. The amount of awakening that you can have is incredible. And the thing is, everyone really attaches awakening with the mystical. They kind of like combine those two things together like they're the same.
Yeah.
They're not. What I mean by the mystical is the experience of the non-ordinary. And you can be very, very awake and not experience the mystical.
Yeah.
You can experience a lot of the mystical and be very not awake.
Oh yeah, I've met a few.
So please do not confuse these two things. They are not the same.
Yeah.
You can have tremendous gifts and very much not be awake, and have a lot of wounding and a lot of ego mind stuff to clear up. There's a lot of that out there. Yeah.
There is a lot.
Yeah.
And I would love to return to a little point that you made where, you know, we chose this reality.
Yes.
Right. And
Unconsciously or consciously.
yeah, unconsciously or consciously. And we have the choice,
Yeah.
once we understand the process,
Yeah.
to change the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my understanding at this stage now is that we're not just serving us either.
No.
Right?
No.
Because like you said, you know, you can come in and have all these traumas, and it might be from previous lives, it might be from the life that you've got right now. I mean, there's been a lot of abuse, you know,
Yes.
on all levels.
Yeah.
What I'm also understanding, or thinking I'm understanding, is that you're helping your lineage
Yeah.
as well, right? And that lineage isn't just mum, granny, great granny. It could be mum's sisters,
Yes.
mum's great aunts.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
huge.
it's huge.
It's a huge number of people behind you.
So coming back to the collective
Yeah.
and the indestructible consciousness,
Yeah.
because that's one thing,
Well, that's the thing.
right?
Yeah.
So if all of us are doing this work, where do we go? Like, what happens with this indestructible consciousness?
Yes.
How much of it can be embodied
Yes.
if each and every one of us are doing this work?
Yeah.
It's an inward journey.
Yes.
Right? That
Yes.
creates an amazing possibility.
Yes.
So if everybody's doing it, what happens with that amazing indestructible consciousness?
Yes.
Where can we go?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And that's when you start to move into higher and higher levels of consciousness. Like as a collective, you
Yeah.
start to experience that. And then each individual has a very different experience because you're part of the collective, having your own unique experience. And the thing that's amazing is that as we're at this time that you mentioned very briefly
yeah.
before, we're in this window of time where everything in the all that is rising in consciousness, has the opportunity, because not every being ticks it.
Yeah.
And it's not just for humans, and it's not at just this consciousness level.
No.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
For everything. And so when we're in this window, the amount of external support, or like, it makes it sound like there's like a little man out there trying to help you. I'm not talking about
There could be.
Yeah, I guess there could be. But it's more like there's waves of these frequencies that are very high in resonance buoying through the all that is, that if you can surf them, will also raise your own vibration, which means that you can go much higher in your frequency resonance, which with much less effort to get to a much higher point.
Okay, so does that increase your bandwidth as well, do
Yes,
you think?
and it jumps us into a whole different set of like what is possible because the floor shifts.
Yeah.
The floor now moves up tremendously. The ceiling kind of gets blown off, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and what happens then is something tremendous. So meaning, what do I mean by the floor? In our human experience, there's so much, like you said, scarcity and fear and greed and oppression and all these like abuse and these horrible things that we've done to each other as humans.
Yeah.
And not just to each other, but to animals, to the planet, to whatever, everything really. And when you get to a higher level of consciousness, that isn't there because the resonance doesn't exist. That's what I mean by the floor. The floor moves up.
Yeah.
So that means that what we experience is totally different. Now, here's the thing. Not only does the consciousness level rise, but you as a being, don't forget you have free will. So part of the amazing part about your frequency resonance rising is you start to recognize your co-creator ability that you mentioned before, right? So not only can you recognize, whoa, I'm creating everything in my reality. Whoa, I'm creating everything in my reality. Holy crap. Okay, what do I need to clean up here? Because I don't really want to experience this anymore. It doesn't really serve me. So, and then the next, I feel like what other thing that people discover is that they start to recognize that everything is frequencies and everything already exists within you. Now, this is not new. Like I've been saying this for a while. It's like everyone has access to the infinite field of possibilities. The key to what possibilities you get to access is your resonance, but it already exists within you. It's not like it's out there, right? It's not like you're chasing the thingy out there that you're trying to get, which is like what we're always taught to do.
Yeah.
It's more like you recognize, wait a minute. if everything is frequency and I'm choosing, what frequency do I want to choose?
Yeah.
And can I just be that frequency?
Totally. I was going to go there with you because I was going to say, when you're saying we have access to the higher consciousness, blah, blah, how? Because when we talk about we have access, we always talk like it's out there, out there, out there. Oh, we gotta get rid of these distortion bars so we can get up and out. But I was going to ask you about that because it feels more like it's in and out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that because there is nuance between the two.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
it's critical.
Very critical.
For
Yeah.
bringing in the realities that you want to experience.
Yeah, and
right?
it's a very fundamental distortion that we run as humans,
Right.
which is that everything that we want is outside of us, right? So we have to chase.
Yes.
And we are not worthy fundamentally of what it is that's outside of us. That's why we have to chase the bloody thing, right? I mean, if we had access to it, we wouldn't be chasing it. We'd just be in it, right?
Right, and that's the difference between The Secret and this
Yes.
work. Thoughts versus frequency.
Frequency, yes. So what happens when your resonance starts to rise enough, and this is like a fundamental distortion that we're going to be like working with in the retreat that we're giving in San Miguel de Allende called Expressing the Light Codes, Mastering Quantum Embodiment. Part of mastering quantum embodiment is releasing this idea of the chase and recognizing the field of the infinite that you already are, and then pivoting so that you can choose what frequency you want to be and then bloody be it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the thing with us humans, right? We have days. You know, you and I have talked about this often. And you're like, yeah, that's not what's happening for me. That frequency that I really want to inhabit right now, that's not happening in this particular moment in time. And the thing is, it's very binary, but what we can cultivate is that even in our messy moments, we have this like light awareness that frequency is still there.
You have
even
a
in our
tingling.
humanness.
Right, yeah, sorry.
No,
yeah.
go for it.
Everybody feels does it in a different way.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I'm imagining something that I would love to experience.
Yeah.
Right? And in that moment, I can feel it, and I can actually feel my resonance rising with it. And okay. Oh, right, that's where I need to be.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes later, somebody comes in and they eat my chocolate cake. No, yeah, I'm not feeling that frequency anymore.
Your husband.
Yeah, it's probably my husband, which makes it worse. Yeah, and I'm not feeling that frequency anymore. Yeah. But what that whole process did, though, was make me aware of, there's more distortions to clear.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
First of all, why was my cake available for him to eat? Why hadn't I hid it somewhere? Second of all, why did he feel he could just come in and eat it without asking me? I mean, I know this is a ridiculous example.
No, but it's true. Yeah.
But these are the tiny little distortion patterns. We're not the victim.
No.
Hang on, why was it available?
Yeah.
Why did he think it's okay just to take it without asking? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
All these little subtleties that these occasions offer us to see, okay, that's boundaries. I didn't set boundaries very clearly, did I? you know, things like that. I always think that these opportunities always offer an insight into, we need to clear that a little bit more.
Yes, exactly.
And then I can move into that feeling or resonance again.
Yes.
Yeah,
and the other thing that I'm feeling is that when you start to access that frequency that you want to inhabit more, and you start to be more and more in it, even in those moments where you're in your human experience, not you, like me also, everybody.
Yeah.
It's like you still have the blessing of that frequency even in your humanness. I know
It's
it
still there.
sounds weird, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And so it does affect. I'm not saying that you're going to be like the saint all the time and act perfectly and all this weird stuff that we have around perfection. It's more like you have an awareness of the learning of it.
Yeah.
Of the opportunity that you can actually slip into, okay, wait, so I'm having a human moment, but that's not exclusive to that resonance. I'm like, okay, that resonance is still there. I'm having my humanness. I'm going to release whatever this is. Oh, wait, there's that resonance even more strongly now.
I can entrain to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird because we tend, at least I have made it very binary. Like that's the resonance I want, and then this is where I am.
Yeah.
You know, but actually you can have both at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of a miracle, really.
Yeah, because let's face it, like the reality that you might want to experience is getting a nice warm beach, clear ocean water. But you have to have felt that, right?
Yeah.
You have to have known what that water is, what that feels like on your feet when you walk on that sand and the heat that comes up through your feet. You have to have known it.
Yeah.
So it's in you somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Whether it's yours or whether it's in the collective.
Yes, through story.
Through story, exactly. It's like, just because you haven't been there doesn't mean you can't understand what that feels like.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that so that people that are watching say, well, I've never been to the beach, so I'll never be.
Yeah.
No, not true.
True, yeah.
You know?
And that's the power of entrainment that you and I have talked about before. So, I think the closest thing would be like storytelling, because like when you share a story, like people imagine and everyone's in the experience, and then they're in a similar sort of like, even though it's their experience because they're imagining it, they're still in that story. And so as people listening to the story, you're learning through it because you're sharing the character's experience.
And that frequency.
See, yeah, and that frequency vibration that the characters experience. And so you learn it. The thing is, with frequency work and vibration, it's like a faster transmission because it's not a story.
Yeah.
It's not thinking. You don't have to understand it. You simply entrain to it.
Yeah.
It's just and the thing is, I just want to clarify this for people. You do not have to feel something in order to entrain to something.
Yes.
Your system can entrain to a higher level frequency resonance, and you'd be like, okay, yeah, not really feeling that much. Because there's some people who don't.
Yeah.
But then if you ask a little bit further, they'll be like, well, I guess I kind of feel more relaxed. Or I guess like I've stopped, my mind chatter stopped a little bit.
Yeah.
Or I guess that like, whatever it is, but they, you know what I mean? Like we always think that we're supposed to be feeling something.
Yeah.
And not everyone feels in that way.
Like you say, sometimes it's just something stops that had been going at this pace for so long.
Yeah.
Suddenly it stops.
Yeah.
Oh, now we have room.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that all these things that happen starts to become available to you as your frequency resonance rises. Because everything, including what you're able to perceive, what you're able to quote unquote do on spirit level, like including like clear your own distortions, even have awareness, gets clearer and brighter and stronger for you as your vibration rises or as your frequency resonance rises. So those things are incredibly important because it gives you more and more distance and freedom from your own thoughts and your emotions.
Yeah.
So you recognize that's not you, and you start to experience you from that big S perspective of the infinite indestructible consciousness.
Okay. Let's sum this up in a nice little package for listeners. So what we're saying with frequency resonance, why it's important, and in the case of what you're emanating or what you're drawing in, is that go.
Is that the frequency resonance that you are and that you have access to is completely mirrored in your physical experience. And the thing is, the end outcome isn't the physical experience. Everyone thinks like, I want the car, I want the horses in the backyard, I want that mountain home, I want the whatever it is. That is nice. And you know what I mean? Like people begin by really wanting that thing. That is all lovely, but it's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Because it's really about how you feel and what it is that you, like in terms of how free you are, how expansive you feel, how connected you feel to the oneness, how much you can access in terms of really understanding that you create, not understanding with your mind, realizing, knowing, feeling, like what it is that you have the power to create and the potential of that. So all of that is really what matters. It's not, I know there's so much emphasis on the manifestation, like the physical stuff, and that's really lovely. I'm not suggesting that there isn't pleasure in that, because there is a celebration of the human experience of that. But that is the icing. The cake is the brilliance and the expansion and the ease and the it's like this beautiful, to me, soft, expansive knowingness that the trajectory that you have chosen is here as this incredible opportunity for you to experience even more than you could have imagined.
Yeah. I like that. I like that, and I like the fact that the shift from being a victim of, to actually understanding that, okay, this is just another opportunity to grow.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
This is not a mind concept now. This is an opportunity now for me to look, whoa, where's my triggers? Where's my distortions, right? How can I move from this?
Yeah.
And become a better version,
Yeah.
iteration,
Yes.
better frequency resonance than I am now.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and the tips, do we have any lovely little tips in this conversation?
I think the biggest tip I can give you is, because people go like, how do I do that?
Exactly.
Is to start to release your distortion. And the easiest way to do that is to listen to a GFC.
Okay, so do you have one in mind? By any chance?
Yes.
At the end of this conversation?
Yeah. So for those of you who would like to start to release your distortion patterns and rise in your vibration so that everything around you can shift, then I highly recommend listening to the group frequency calibration meditation associated with this episode. And if you've liked this episode, please hit the like button so that our content can find more people just like you. We're about to start the group frequency calibration, or GFC, where we actually do the frequency work and where change is catalyzed. To get to the GFC, click on the square that'll appear to the right or the link in the description below. It's time to bring in a new experience, a new consciousness, and a new world. Let's rise together.